Her premiership literally ended in tears.
Serve the country I love.
But almost as soon as Theresa May exited the political stage, the shockwaves could be felt in Europe. EU leaders said that her resignation did nothing to change the EU's position on the Brexit withdrawal deal already agreed.
Well, the withdrawal agreement is not up for renegotiation. I don't think the UK wants that either. So the question will be whether we will renegotiate the political declaration. That's what is very much on offer, and which is also the basis of all the talks since the withdrawal agreement was closed.
The EU's chief negotiator, Michel Barnier, quickly showed his positive regard for the PM in a tweet expressing his full respect for May's determination and for working for an orderly withdrawal from the EU. But some Tories were almost as quick to throw their hats into the ring to lead the party, including front-runner Boris Johnson, who wasted no time in saying a no deal was a possibility in October. Some reacted to that in consternation as to how things could now play out.
El Brexit duro.
Under these circumstances, a hard Brexit appears to be a reality that is nearly impossible to stop. The British government, the British Parliament, are solely responsible for a no-deal exit from the EU and its consequences.
But the EU country with perhaps the most to lose by a chaotic exit is Ireland. Irish Prime Minister Leo Varadkar had this warning.
Obviously, as anyone can see, British politics is consumed by Brexit and will be consumed by Brexit for a very long time. It means that we now enter a new phase when it comes to Brexit, and a phase that may be a very dangerous one for Ireland.
While the race for the next leader is on, Europe is well aware that he or she won't be chosen by the British people, but by the Conservative Party members. That means 0.2% of the country. The Tory party members, who are predominantly male, with an average age of 57, will decide who leads the UK into this next crucial phase.
Let's bring in Bernd Hüttemann. He's a pro-EU activist and the vice president of the Lobbying Association European Movement. Welcome to the show. Nearly all commentators agree that Theresa May is the latest casualty of the Brexit fiasco. But isn't she also the victim of a relentless EU?
No, it's not all like this. It's all made by Britain. It's UK-made a disaster, if you want to say that. The European Union keeps calm and carries on.
It looks likely that May will be replaced by a more pro-hard Brexit leader. What does the EU say to that? Some of the leaders have already stepped out saying that the withdrawal agreement that is on the table right now will not be renegotiated. So where do we go from here?
Like I said, they can keep calm and carry on. They wait and see. We have to see also there are European elections now running across the continent, so they have to wait also for a new commission. 30th of October is the deadline for a no-deal or extension.
This no-deal scenario is certainly one that the EU wants to avoid, but leaders coming in possibly not so eager on avoiding this scenario. How does the EU deal with that? They can't just keep calm and carry on, I assume.
Well, nobody wants a no deal and a harsh Brexit. But of course, that is a decision of the UK government, whatever is going on. There can be even new elections. So nobody knows really what is going on in Westminster these days. So what we're going to have is for sure a commission in member states of the EU 27 who will have a clear line what can harm the EU as such. So they will try to avoid to harm the EU.
Brexit and the Brexit movement is just one example of the anti-EU sentiment that's growing in the entire bloc. How strong is citizen support for the EU?
The last results projections, for example, in the Netherlands, show that there's a much more wider pro-EU approach. So the real threat is there, of course, but at the end of the day, I guess that especially Brexit made people thinking about what it means when you get out of the EU. It means a lot of chaos.
But there's Eurosceptic governments in Italy and Hungary. How does the EU plan to deal with that in the future?
Nobody of these mentioned governments want to leave the EU. the EU is a democracy which is also scrambling on the right policy, the right climate change policy, the right migration policy. Of course, these are the things what everybody has to deal with, but nobody wants to leave the EU. We need a strong parliament now to act, to elect the new Commission president. That comes next, and that makes the EU stronger when the people go to vote and also vote for constructive parties.
Well, the polls are indicating that the Brexit Party, for example, will be the strongest force in the British EU elections. How strong can that parliament really be if a big part of it is made up of Eurosceptics?
It's not a big part which is made up. It's too big part in my point of view, of course, but this is not at all a blocking majority or anything, a blocking minority, if you want. The European elections will show that in many countries the centre will hold very strong, and already the Netherlands showed first good indications. And when you go to Ireland, you also have another wave. Everything is a prediction. This is not clear yet, but we're going to have something that is we can deal with democratic parties in a real fight about the right policy, and that will make the anti-European parties much more calm.
Bernd Hüttemann, pro-EU activist and Vice President of the European Movement. Thank you very much.
Thank you.